Well, Russia says it has charged the CEO of encrypted messaging platform Telegram with facilitating terrorist activity, placing him on an international wanted list. Authorities allege Pavel Durov failed to remove channels used by Ukrainian spies to organize attacks inside Russia. Well, Greg Barton is a professor of global Islamic politics at Deakin University, and he joins me now to get more on this. Good to have you, Greg, back on the program. Now, firstly, do you think Pavel Durov was targeted specifically because the Kremlin is now seeing how Telegram is being used against Russia in the war with Ukraine?
Good to be with you, Girish. There's no question the Kremlin is very frustrated with Telegram. On the one hand, it depends on Telegram. It's the only thing that really works for both the Russians and the Ukrainians in wartime conditions. But Pavel Durov, who invented Telegram in 2013, is an ardent libertarian and believes in privacy. At least that's what he says he does. And so it's not just Russia, but France and India have both protested and charged him over the way that Telegram is used by criminal interests. So that's one side of the story, but there's layers of complexity here because it seems that possibly the Kremlin doesn't intend to get rid of Telegram. It's sending a warning shot, and this is more symbolic than actual intent.
Yes, that's because both sides are still using it in what's been described as a virtual battlefield. What sort of battle is being fought between Russia and Ukraine in the virtual arena?
Well, you think about the physical front lines in eastern Ukraine. You really can't move without becoming a victim to a drone. So even getting logistics, food and water in is very difficult. You need to communicate to your colleagues, and they need to sort of bring it in by robot or armored vehicle or undercover. And Telegram is the one communication channel that is robust in wartime conditions. But it's also used to recruit people knowingly or unknowingly to carry out operations for the Ukrainians deep inside Russia, to recruit people to join the Russian army. I mean, everyone's using it, not just for basic propaganda, but for logistics, for just making daily life function.
Yes. So Durov, he lives in Dubai, but he's quite a traveler. But do you think agencies like Interpol might be obligated to execute this warrant of arrest from Moscow?
Well, Interpol's certainly not obligated, Girish. They sort of go through the process of recognizing the notice. I don't think the UAE is about to surrender him. Even France, France detained him in France 2 years ago after he landed briefly, but they released him several months later. Their concerns were similar concerns that Telegram is being used by criminal channels. So he doesn't face any imminent risk of arrest unless he's foolish enough to travel somewhere where the Russians can get him. But even that story is not so clear. Some would claim that he's actually got better relations with the Kremlin than this story appears to suggest on the surface. It's really hard to know, but it's not the case that he's about to be arrested and extradited to Russia, nor does it seem likely that Telegram's about to be shut down. WhatsApp, Signal, Viber, other encrypted messaging services have been shut down. Many Russians don't want to join the Kremlin-sponsored Max channel, which is, obviously reports your information directly to the Kremlin, so there's reasons why that's not very attractive. So really, Telegram's the only viable means of communication for basic life for both Russians and Ukrainians, but it is critical to this war effort on both sides.
Yes. So as you mentioned France earlier, Telegram is in trouble there for not countering criminal activity. And today, the online watchdog in Australia is taking Telegram to task for failing to remove terrorist or extremist content. So on those two fronts, Greg, is Telegram being viewed as an enabler for those with nefarious intentions?
It certainly has that history, Girish. Not long after it was invented in 2013, it was used by ISIS as their preferred method of communication. The subway, the various attacks conducted in Europe by ISIS were linked to communications on Telegram. So there is a history there of terrorist use. There's also a history of criminal use, of course. The same things that make it attractive to ordinary civilians in Russia trying to keep out of the way of the Kremlin make it attractive to criminals. And it's linked with cyber currencies and transactions. Many of them may be innocent, but they also appeal to an underground network of people who want to hide from authorities. So there's a real problem. It's a structural problem. It's not just Telegram, but Telegram is the most outstanding case at the moment.
Yes, do you think the other similar sort of encrypted messaging services like Signal, for instance, have they been able to do things differently?
They've got the same basic problems. It's just that Telegram has far bigger reach and far more traffic. I mean, it's incomparable in Russia and Ukraine. Nothing else comes close. WhatsApp, of course, is end-to-end encrypted, now owned by Meta. There have been periodic moves to remove illicit content, harmful content from WhatsApp. But to be frank, it's a cat and mouse game. I mean, even if you have the best will and intention by the tech bros, by the social media owners, and you don't always have that, but even if you have that, it's a constant move and counter move as elements try and misuse platforms, try and find a way to fly under the radar. It's inherently difficult because you're trying to set up entirely private means of communication, and of course, not all the uses that's put to are going to be good, wholesome uses.
And also, from your knowledge, Greg, how do major listed, terrorist organizations, how critical are these sort of encrypted messaging apps for, at least the communication aspects of their operations? How have they been using it in recent years, for instance?
Well, social media in general, the internet before that, and now encrypted messaging are accelerants. I mean, terrorists could do what they do without these things. So they did before we had the internet, but it makes things much faster. It joins people up with much lower friction. It means that recruiters can get much more return on their investment. They can reach out to 100,000 people and get a response from perhaps thousands. Other ways don't present that same efficiency. So that's the challenge. And of course, we're particularly concerned in Australia, but around the world with the young people, teenagers who are being targeted by recruiters, whether for criminal activities or terrorism. And the technology isn't inherently the problem in itself, but it just accelerates and amplifies everything.
Okay, Professor Greg Barton, really good to get your expertise and analysis. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Girish.